Welcome to the Avanti Women Panasonic Speaker Series. Thank you very much for joining us. We're here today speaking with Sandra Carusi, comedian, entrepreneur, woman of many, many traits. We're here this month to talk about caregiving and confidence. Welcome, Sandra. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you.
We want to know everything to do with your life story. How did you get to where you are today in this business of advertising, marketing, TV world, a comedian? So really, what's your story? How did you get here?
After university, I started doing stand-up comedy because I wanted to get into radio. So I thought the best way to do that is to try comedy. And it went well. From there, I went on air and radio. And then I wanted to be more pragmatic. There wasn't a lot of role models, female role models in comedy at the time. And so I went on to do sales and sell advertising on radio for 20 years. And most recently, I got back into stand-up and launched my own radio show, Inside Jokes. This came after I was diagnosed with cancer, breast cancer, and then went on to find out I also had thyroid cancer. When the breast cancer came back for the second time, I decided to launch this radio show because I thought, you know what, you got to do it. You got to go after it.
How amazing. Sandra, you look fantastic.
Thank you.
So cancer, eh? So the beast is back. And tell us about the caregiving. How are you going to manage this? What are you doing to stay strong?
Well, I'm doing things different this time. You know, it's been back 3 times now. And what I'm doing differently than I did before is actually taking the time to stop, listen to my body, and take the time to rest. And so I actually allocate time in the day or in the week to really stop down and relax and meditate and clear my mind. And I actually find I'm more productive. Whereas before, I thought you just had to keep going to get as much done as possible. But truly, if the more you stop down and give yourself the break, then you could come back stronger.
Yeah. And so, you know, through this, you're working, you're a mom, you have a mom. Like, I mean, this caregiving doesn't stop. So how are you managing the caregiving?
I think one thing I learned through my cancer journey is you have to take care of yourself first. And I thought I was doing that. You know, there's this analogy they talk about when you're on an airplane, they always tell women to put the oxygen mask on first, or parents, sorry, and then put it on the children.
True.
And I heard that, but I was not resonating. And it took this diagnosis to really understand that there's no messing around, that I can't take care of my 87-year-old mother or my young boys if I am not in full gear. And I learned that the hard way. I learned that after chemo, and I was immobilized, there was a period of time I couldn't walk at all. The chemo had destroyed my muscles and joints, and I was in a lot of pain. And when you go through that adversity, that's when you really, you know, get the kick in the pants you need to really realize, you know, you got to take care of yourself. And I wouldn't want anybody else to go through that to learn like I did.
Right. So through that learning, right, through that strength, through this confidence that you have, you know, what advice do you have for others?
I think the caregiving is very important. And I can't stress that enough. Like I said, you know, your body will get back at you if you don't take care of it well. And I thought because I was going for massages and pedicures, I thought that was taking care of myself. But it's not. Taking care of yourself is putting yourself first sometimes. And sometimes, yeah, it means telling your kids you can't take them to laser tag or whatever they want to do. Sometimes it takes that. I hate that as a mother because you want to do everything for your kids, but you're not really serving them. The same goes for my mother and family and friends. I was putting a lot of people, everyone, before myself, and really you're not doing anyone really justice.
Right. Let's talk a little bit more about your confidence. I mean, the one thing, you have this dynamic smile, you're beautiful, and you just exude confidence. You know, what do you do to keep that during this transfer of journey of cancer and trying to upkeep with everything? Like, how are you managing that, and also what keeps you focused on the confidence?
It's funny because before I was diagnosed, I was known for my confidence. You know, you need it in sales in particular. In comedy, you're going nowhere unless you have confidence. I mean, it's hard to do that. But it was almost a false sense of confidence. I wasn't as confident that I thought I was, if that makes sense. And going through the journey, I really learned to take off some layers and really get down to my authentic self without being too oprahfied right now. I'm just going to talk authentically.
Yeah.
And realizing that true confidence comes from a place of authenticity. And I think the more you are true to yourself and really exude who you are, that's when you're going to get the best results in life, the greatest happiness.
Would you do anything different?
Yes, I would rest more. I would, listen to my body. The lump that was growing under my arm had reached 5 centimeters. I don't know what I thought that was. I mean, it was a lymph node that had swelled. And the last thing I thought it was cancer. And often you hear that from other cancer survivors. And so I think I would definitely do that different. I think I would like myself more. I think I punish myself through cigarettes, and that's punishing yourself, for all that we make excuses as to what that is. I wasn't good to myself. I did yoga, but then I went and had a cigarette. So, that's a unique way of taking care of yourself. It's a dichotomy. And I think you have to stay on a path of, if you're going to be good to yourself, you can't live that lie of, drinking a green juice and then pounding back a couple of bottles of wine that week.
Right.
It's not authentic.
Yeah, so it's being real. This is good.
Yes.
That's great. You
Yes.
know? And so if you had to think about your recipe for success now around, caregiving for yourself, let alone your mother and your kids, and, sustaining that authentic confidence, what's going to be the recipe of success for Sandra Carusi moving forward?
I think being more honest with myself first about where I've been, and finding ways to communicate my cancer journey, because I think it'll help other people. I don't want to be identified with it. I don't want it as a badge. I think sometimes, you could make that your identity, and that's not really who I am. Something I went through to become a better version of me, and it's unfortunately took cancer. I would have liked, a nice workshop or something, but cancer took a little bit out of me. So I think that's the direction. I think always seeking. And I've been much happier. A lot of people who know me before, BC as I call it, before cancer and after, is that I'm just happier because I am being more true to what I want to do and be.
Yeah, great. So what advice would you have for other women, perhaps our members, around how to sustain that caregiving, not only for yourself and for the family, and still keep that confidence, the authentic confidence?
Yeah. I think part of the authenticity comes from really being true as to what you want to do. I think pragmaticism gets in the way. And I've always been a pragmatic person, and I never stuck to comedy or on air on radio because I wanted to be a mom. And I thought, those hours and that kind of line of work is not conducive, so I'll just do sales, and it'll be more of a 9 to 5. And really, I was kind of turning my back on my true love, which is performance, comedy, and on air. And I love sales, and probably will always do that because I like people and I like that communication. But I think you really don't turn your back on what you really want to do and what your true dreams are. And sometimes it might not be pragmatic, but you will find a way. So I have found a way to make comedy and radio pragmatic by having this radio show, because I'm not on tour doing comedy in multiple cities. I'm able to do the radio show in the city once a week and still have a great time with my kids. And so you make things work. And so that's part of the authenticity. And I think in a way, I made myself sick figuratively with the cancer, in the sense that I wasn't really true to myself. I turned my back, like I said, to what I should have been doing. If you're given a gift, whatever that is, it could be styling hair, it could be whatever it is, you really should do it in some capacity. And I thought because I was doing comedy sporadically through my sales career, I would host corporate events and that sort of thing. I thought that was enough, but it truly was not. And I've used comedy now to heal myself and bring myself out of this health issue that I've had.
Yeah, lovely, lovely. So what resources would you say you've used or you would utilize not only for the caregiving and the confidence? You know, what were some of the tools, some of the resources that you were using? What advice would you want to give with others that are going through the same or similar experience?
Well, I think it's important not to take yourself seriously. Okay, that's key. And I know I'm a comedian, and that seems hand in hand. But I think anytime you take yourself seriously in whatever you do, you're just going to run into challenges. Keep it light. You know, I take my family seriously, I take my career seriously, but I do not take myself seriously. And I think part of that is I watch comedy. And there's something I do on my radio show called Comic Prescription. So I prescribe a comedy bit to my listeners at the end of every show, and it's a clip of whatever comedian. And I think when we're bombarded with images every day. I'm in the advertising business, so I know how those ad impressions work. And I know, on TV, you watch enough Kardashian, it's going to make you nuts. It really is. Yeah, you have to balance it with good, positive viewing habits, either in social media or you choose. And so some of the resources is comedy. I try to put myself in a position to laugh or make people laugh. It releases endorphins in your body when you laugh. So it's actually good for you, much like exercise. And so I also read a lot of self-help books.
Nice.
And that really got me through my healing. I mean, I had a lot of time at home. I found that when I watched certain shows on Netflix that were too intense, some of these shows are fantastic. But, you watch a lot of Game of Thrones, you're going to be a little angry, right?
So those resources, those self-help books, is there one that comes to mind that you would maybe want to share?
Thank you. There's one, and I like talking about it because I had passed it off to a lot of friends over the years. It's called The Magic of Believing by Claude Bristol. It was written many, many, many years ago, and I read it 25 years ago, and it laid the groundwork for my career. And despite taking the turn that I have taken now, I still have had a fantastic career in the past 25 years in radio sales and on air. And just the power of really believing in yourself. If we recall the Olympics in 2010 in Vancouver, their whole slogan was believe. There was a song, it was up in lights. Most professional athletes will talk about belief because they can never be what they are without believing that they can do it. And I think we underestimate that. I think we think it's a catchphrase or it's something, again, that we see on these TV shows. But it's truly the foundation of real success.
Yeah, I hear you. It's like a tagline, a buzzword. It's there, but we don't really believe it.
Yeah.
So, Sandra, we really appreciate your introspection today around the cancer component and the caregiving. What happens when there's a bad day? How does Sandra pick up herself? What do you do to keep nurturing and get to that caregiving again? How do you get through it?
Good question.
How do you do it?
Holy 60-minute moment here. So that's an excellent question. How do you pick yourself up when you're down? And I think what happened was when I got through the grieving of having this disease and feeling sorry for myself, I realized that there's no productivity in that. And I really do things and put myself in a position of success. And I think that is a great tool that I've learned as I age in my years, in my career, is to put myself in a position of success. In other words, we were talking earlier about TV shows you might watch or social media. Expose yourself to positive things. If it's comedy, if that's what does it for you, then do it. A funny television show, maybe your kids make you laugh, maybe it's more FaceTime with a human being instead of through electronics. And I think the more human touch we keep, it actually does have benefits to your health. And I know that I spent, cancer is a very isolating disease. That's one of the things that they say in all the pamphlets, and that you actually feel. And that is cured by spending time with people. And human touch is very important. And so I make sure I put myself in a position to feel the energy of another person. A hug, a 20-second hug has tremendous benefits. And again, comedy.
Yeah, great. So through your career and through your journey of multiple items, was there anyone that stood out, a mentor, who was there for you?
I have a few. I have my friend's mom, who I've known since I was young, and she battled cancer at a time that there was not resources there is now. And it struck me, we were young, and she was just, smiling through it. And that was at a time that they didn't do that. Now it's, it's out, it's not a taboo cancer, so people talk about it more. There's a lot more books and publications and shows about it. But at that time, there wasn't. So she did it with grace, and she went out and did fundraising. And I, as a life kind of mentor, I always found her fascinating in that manner. And my mother and other women of that time who kind of emigrated at a time that was coinciding with women in the workplace in the 60s and 70s who were kind of finding their place. And I think women really faced challenges at that time, and for them to overcome that kind of adversity, we talk about glass ceiling now. At that time, it was virtually impossible, to really move ahead in what you wanted to do. And so I have a lot of respect for those women.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Mm-hmm.
And, how about your children? How do you manage the caregiving with the children, and how do you teach them and be that role model while you're in pain and suffering?
Yes. It's funny because they, children watch you all the time. So how you react to situations or how they are going to react to a situation. So I knew from the day of diagnosis that not necessarily to hold back. Some people don't even tell their kids, which I don't agree with. My kids were 5 and 8 at the time of diagnosis. I was straight with them and spoke in their language. And then I proceeded to kind of demonstrate, what I had seen is that you can do something like this. You could overcome adversity without completely falling apart. I was trying to shelter them a bit too much at my own expense, and by not always telling them how tired or how sick I was. I did, there's some days when I couldn't even get up, and they kind of had to fend for themselves, with food. Sometimes a bag of Doritos, but for the most part, it was just important to me to keep their life as normal as possible. And that way they wouldn't remember mom's cancer as a bad thing. Right. So I would keep their play dates intact with their friends. I made sure, they still had their birthday parties and went to birthday parties. I played with them. We played a lot of cards because I couldn't function. And cognitively, I wasn't all there in chemo, of course, as anyone. And so I was limited. I couldn't do a lot of reading with them and a lot of the things I wanted to do. But I knew by role modeling and trying to show them that you could get through anything by doing it myself, I knew that would be great life tools for them down the road.
Definitely the Avanti way, right? Sempre Avanti, which means always move forward.
That's right.
Very nice, Sandra. I would love to know who your superhero is, or maybe who your favorite comedian is.
Okay, superhero, obviously Wonder Woman. We didn't have many more than that.
Right.
She was strong. She was independent. She looked great in a bustier. I mean, I wish. But yeah, she just demonstrated a lot. You know what I liked about her? She hung out with the guys.
Yeah.
She was the only female with a bunch of male kind of superheroes.
Yeah.
And that's me in a lot of ways. I'm one of the guys. I love my female friends and being around women. But I also love just being one of the guys. And so I kind of thought that was funny.
Yeah, you are a Wonder Woman, though. You really are.
Oh, thank you.
How about your favorite comedian?
Favorite comedian? Oh.
Male or female?
Male or female? That's okay. First of all, Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah.
I liked her back. That's so easy to say now. I liked her back then, but she was a great stand-up. And of course you see her talent in her show every day. There's a woman. I have to count her as a mentor as well because she overcame a lot of adversity and she hit rock bottom when she had her sitcom and she decided to do a show about her coming out. At that time, she was shunned by Hollywood and the viewers, and they shut the show down. And she hit rock bottom. She talks about it. And for her to come back in the manner that she did, and now be one of the most powerful women and people in Hollywood, in daytime television, in comedy. I think that tells it all right there.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's one of my favorite comedians, of course, George Carlin, because he pushed the envelope at a time that you didn't. You know, there's so many comics now that I love. Sebastian Maniscalco, who I got to interview last year, and Kevin Hart. So there's a big variety. You know, of course, I love Amy Schumer too. You know, she's done a lot. So Jerry Seinfeld, the list goes on.
Classic. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what a delight, and a superhero, definitely one of our members, Avanti, with Avanti Women, Sandra Carusi, here today talking about caregiving and confidence and her journey and her conquering, and we really appreciate you being with us today. Follow us at #AW Recipe for Success and send us your questions. We'd love to hear from you.